Today, we have three stories based on research being presented at the AHA's 63rd Scientific Sessions in Dallas. Stories are embargoed for release until the day of presentation. You may want to tape this feed as a source of future stock footage. The stories will first be fed as a complete package with narration on Audio Channel 1 and Nat Sound on Channel 2. The stories will be repeated with Nat Sound only. For more information, contact Carol Floyd at the American Heart Association National Center, area code 214-658-7501. Our first story for release on Tuesday, November 13th, is about a pilot study that links television viewing to unhealthy behaviors in children. Suggested intro: typical television watching may be setting children up for high blood cholesterol, one risk factor for premature heart disease, a California study finds. Television viewing habits may give parents and pediatricians a clue to a child's risk for heart disease, according to a first-of-its-kind study. Television itself isn't the culprit, it's the behaviors associated with it that may contribute to high blood cholesterol. California researchers reported their findings at the 63rd Scientific Sessions of the American Heart Association. Pediatrician Kurt Gold is one of the study's authors.
During television, a lot of people will be involved in nibbling foods that are high in fat and salt and sugar. One is exposed to tremendous pressure from food industry advertising on television to go and purchase foods that are perhaps not in line with an ideal diet. And at the same time, television viewing itself displaces other active programs, such as after-school sports or going out for dancing lessons or even taking music lessons.
A poor diet and sedentary lifestyle may lead to high blood cholesterol, a well-known risk factor for heart disease. The study was based on health screenings by California pediatricians of more than 1,000 children and teenagers aged 2 to 20. Dr. Paul Kukunda volunteered his busy local practice to the project. He examined children and had their parents fill out a lifestyle questionnaire. His office staff measured blood cholesterol. All risk factors were looked at independently. 8% of those tested had cholesterol levels higher than 200 milligrams per deciliter. A level over 175 is considered high enough in children over age 2 to warrant dietary therapy, according to the American Academy of Pediatrics. More than half the children with cholesterol levels of 200 or higher reported watching over 2 hours of television per day. So asking about TV habits may help identify children at risk. Researchers say looking at only a family history of heart attack or high blood cholesterol may miss as many as half of the children with potentially dangerous cholesterol levels.
I'm sure that genetics play a significant role in heart disease. At the same time, it is clear from this that the environment and our lifestyles play a perhaps equally important role.
Because heart disease has its roots in childhood, experts say it's the best time to teach children how to live a healthy life. Todd Bauer reporting for the American Heart Association. Our second story for release on Tuesday, November 13th, is about a life-threatening sleep disorder found typically in overweight middle-aged men. Suggested intro: obstructive sleep apnea, a condition that interrupts breathing during sleep, may double a person's risk of dying from heart disease, according to a patient study in a New York City research center. Sleep restores us mentally and physically, and yet for some people, sleeping can be dangerous, even deadly. About 2% of Americans, mostly overweight middle-aged men, suffer from a sleep disorder so severe they can die in their sleep, having gone to bed in apparently good health. The condition, obstructive sleep apnea, is caused by an airway blockage. Victims actually stop breathing, and the level of oxygen in the blood drops, forcing the heart to work harder. Such breathing disturbances can trigger life-threatening heart rhythms. New York researchers followed more than 200 patients and found the average age of death was about 61, compared to the national average of 78. Cardiologist Bernard Burak presented the group's findings at the American Heart Association Scientific Sessions.
The fact of the matter is, in our study, that most of the deaths occur during the night. And there was over a 2 times the death rate in men who had obstructive sleep apnea from cardiac disease compared to the general population.
At New York's Montefiore Sleep Center in the Bronx, patients spend the night hooked up to machines that record their sleeping behavior. Electrodes measure brain patterns, while other devices monitor breathing, heart activity, and body movements. People with sleep apnea are extremely loud snorers, often waking hundreds of times each night, gasping for air. Deprived of a quality night's sleep, they're exhausted the next day. One treatment, frequently effective, is a mask fitted over the patient's face, forcing air into his nose. This pushes aside any airway blockage. Excellent. Robert Rosenthal says the mask enabled him to get a quality night's sleep for the first time in years.
I'm a success story. I can now stay awake for 10 to 14 hours at a stretch. It used to be that the first thing I would want to do after I got up was to go back to sleep.
Because of its potential for sudden death during sleep and for job and driving accidents related to severe daytime sleepiness, experts say early recognition and treatment of sleep apnea is crucial. Todd Bauer reporting for the American Heart Association. The third story, for release on Wednesday, November 14th, explains a model prevention program that's breaking new ground and making health care accessible and understandable. Suggested intro: workers' blood pressure normalize when key socioeconomic barriers are overcome, according to researchers in Birmingham. You see healthcare messages everywhere, but traditional health education has not reached a huge segment of our society. Blue-collared and minority workers, many of whom are poor or illiterate. In Birmingham, Alabama, health and city leaders are teaming up to overcome these barriers. A wellness program has been designed to reach every city employee, from garbage collector to the mayor. Results show the program is working. Rather than rely on technical printed material or complicated charts, Dr. Mona Fouad uses visual aids to explain the dangers of high blood pressure to street and sanitation workers.
Your blood pressure gets higher than the 150/95. That's mean high. That's mean that over that, if this stayed for a long time as it is, it can cause some complications. It can cause kidney damage. It can cause stroke.
Earlier teaching methods led to a high dropout rate and a low success rate of only 25%. But now, after a year in her class, almost 3/4 of the group lowered their high blood pressure to normal levels. Workers were taught to reduce blood pressure by changing their diet, exercising, stopping smoking, and losing weight. Dr. Fouad announced the project's results at the American Heart Association scientific sessions.
This way of teaching attracted the people. They like to come, they participate in the class, they see something different. It's on their level so they can understand it. It's not higher, so it's not boring for them.
The class is part of one of the largest, most comprehensive worksite prevention programs for heart disease risk factors in the United States. Since the project began in 1984, the team has screened about 4,000 city employees, 50% black and 20% women. While barriers to good health still exist, the Birmingham project is breaking new ground and changing health behavior. Todd Bauer reporting for the American Heart Association. These stories will be refed with Nat Sound only. For more information, contact Carol Floyd at the American Heart Association National Center, area code 214-658-7501. Stories repeated as stated above.
Well, I'm sure it does, Ruth, but an elevator just came this close to ending our lives. You know, I just can't shake it off. You know, it makes me kind of want to look inward.
Call now and get a medium original or pan Domino's pepperoni pizza feast with extra portions of fresh pepperoni and 100% real California cheese for just $7.
Predicting whose cholesterol will be high and whose cholesterol will be low. During television, a lot of people will be involved in nibbling foods that are high in fat and salt and sugar. One is exposed to tremendous pressure from food industry advertising on television to go and purchase foods that are perhaps not in line with an ideal diet. And at the same time, television viewing itself displaces other active programs, such as after-school sports or going out for dancing lessons or even taking music lessons.
Sounds fun, ain't it? Hey, what's going on in there? You can keep it. I can, huh? I can?
Hi there. Hi, Mrs. Ferris. Give me 5. Come on. All right. 8th percentile in height, which is fantastic.
Okay, Annie. I'm just going to take a little blood sample from you.
Here, it was high. You came, we rescreened her. It was high again.
Okay, Whiskers, baby, work with me now. Let me see anger like...
So I can do that.
This is where the legend mountain spring water for Gunnison and Colorado, when people came for the good times and discovered the beer, brewed with pure rocky...
I'm sure that genetics play a significant role in heart disease. At the same time, it is clear from this that the environment and our lifestyles play a perhaps equally important role.
But this is a nice handout that goes just step by step through the different food categories. And as you know, it's the saturated fats and the dietary cholesterol that raise the blood cholesterol. So that's something that we want to limit.
I can get through a day. I can safely drive a car. I've gone cross country. I'm in.
Sleep. She's noticed quiet episodes occurring at night, suggesting that he's not breathing at times.
With the CPAP, his oxygen doesn't come up.
The fact of the matter is, in our study, that most of the deaths occurred during the night. And there was over a 2 times the death rate in men who had obstructive sleep apnea from cardiac disease compared to the general population.
Give you some air. All set. Okay. Exhale. I'm a success story. I can now stay awake for 10 to 14 hours at a stretch. It used to be that the first thing I would want to do after I got up was to go back to sleep.
Very rapid heart rate all the time.
Yes, very rapid.
Which indicates his low oxygen.
Down.
Yeah, with the cessation
rapidity
of
again.
breathing here, as you can see, that slows down, and then when he starts breathing again,
And
first name?
Trinidad.
14, 15.
How are you guys? You hanging in there?
Yeah.
Inside your vessels, that's the first and higher number. When your heart relaxes to receive blood, okay. We're gonna do a little puzzle. If your blood pressure gets higher than the 150/95, that's mean high. That's mean that over that, if this stayed for a long time, as it is, it can cause some complications. It can cause kidney damage. It can cause stroke. I'll give you some numbers and you try to match that, where this goes. Okay. Okay. Got his blood pressure. Okay, write this down. This way of teaching attracted the people. They like to come, they participate in the class, they see something different. It's on their level so they can understand it. It's not higher, so it's not boring for them.
Relax your hand. That your blood pressure today is higher.
$747.
Don't look at my light. Thank you. Don't be long. I never see no fast food, no McDonald's. Once in a great while, kids are kids. And I just want to tell you that when we checked her cholesterol, we were doing a study, and that study showed that watching television a lot with children we can identify the kids who watch television a lot can have very high cholesterol. It's not that television causes high cholesterol, it's just they sit down, they don't do activities, they binge and sit down and munch on, name it, potato chips and hamburgers and sausages and what have you. If we ask two questions, the family history and how much TV they watch, we can come up with a prediction of 78% of these children might have high blood cholesterol.
And if you miss. But other complications, cardiac complications, are very common. Hypertension occurs in the majority of people that have significant obstructive sleep apnea syndrome. Cerebrovascular disease is also more common in this patient population.
I have always felt that the problems that I had with sleep would most likely condemn me to an early death, a feeling, incidentally, I still have even sleeping with the CPAP. I don't think that I am a good candidate for life in a retirement home at 90.
Here we go. I'm going to check these connections, make sure everything's okay.
that's been done in the last 2 years with the new program, Dr. Fouad's dropout rate's about 15%, which is remarkable for any intervention program and compares to something like 30 to 50% previous. And also, there are about over 70% of people who, if they stay with the program, are successful in getting their blood pressure down